The Punisher's ninth episode, Front Toward Enemy, asks the question, can the Punisher work without the Punisher? And it asks that both in the plot and in the structure of the show itself, which I think is a really interesting sort of dynamic that the storytelling actually informs how the show is set up. Because for most of this episode, we don't see Frank Castle. He is gone for the most part. He's hiding out with Micro. They're trying to find out what's happened after a bomb has gone off, set off by Lewis. And the problem is, he's just in the background, so we have to deal with all of the side characters the show has been building up and characters that we already know, like Karen Page. So does the show work without the Punisher, who doesn't really show up till 30 minutes in? Yes and no. I think some of the stuff about Karen wanting to defend her point of view about gun control rights and things like that is really interesting because it's such a topical conversation to have right now in America. And so for the show to be, you know, addressing those topics as it goes on is a really unique point of view to take. So it's a risk that the show didn't necessarily have to, but I think it should, and I'm glad to see it does. But the Punisher without the Punisher isn't quite the same exciting show because they've set up such an interesting dynamic between him and Micro since the show began, and without that there's a spark missing to this episode. But I think what it really interestingly does is sets up the idea that like Frank Castle has to start accepting more responsibility and more of who he is, because by the end of the episode, in his effort to save Curtis from Lewis, he exposes the Punisher back to the world. The Punisher is alive. And that means the rest of the show, the Punisher is a known entity to everyone, and he can't stay hidden in the shadows completely any longer. And that's a really cool way that the way the show was set up informs that plot point. And I'm excited to see where the show goes from there, but this episode itself very much felt like not spinning its wheels, but a, hey, we're setting the stage for things to come, because things are brimming to the surface with Lewis, with Curtis, and with Frank, and I think a lot more of that is going to come in the next episode.